Hello there, CodeMaker4 here. I'm a bit late with recording this, so I'm going to keep it quick. Day 3, gear ratios. The part 1 puzzle doesn't actually have anything to do with gear ratios because we need to add up all the part numbers. But not just all the numbers in our input, no, only the numbers that are next to one of these characters. So stars, pluses, hashtags, there's a long list of characters that are possible. I just checked that it was both not a digit and not a point. So what you have to do is find all of the numbers that are adjacent and or diagonally adjacent to a character and add them up together. Let's look at what my solution looks like. Of course, I'm reusing the digit and read integer functions from day 1 and day 2. They seem to keep on being useful. Yeah, I'm aware that there's a C functions that does basically this. I'm just a weirdo who likes to write everything on their own. So let's get to the main part of the solution. I forgot to put everything in nice functions. So this is just one large, long main function with a 1, 2, 3, 4 nested loop. So we're in for a ride. But yeah, so we always have our line input. This is just a temporary buffer for reading one line of the input at the same time. And there's this input double array, which is a two-dimensional array, where we are going to be temporarily storing all of this. We're doing this so that we can just in any order request a specific row and column of text and just say, is there a number here? Is there a character here? So we're just taking the input and putting it into the two-dimensional array. Next up, we're initializing some variables, mainly the total amount of rows and columns we counted during this process. And we're setting the sum to 0. And then I'm going to loop for every character in the two-dimensional array. We're going to check if it's a number. So again, we're making use of this input thing here. So we make a little pointer thingo, and we put it at the address of the character at the specific row and column. And then we try to read from it. And if we did found a number, then we can find the length by calculating how much the pointer has moved. So we take the new pointer and subtracting where it came from by just recalculating the same thing. And now we know the length. This is useful for later. And we're going to keep track of whether or not we found a character adjacent to it. So now we're going to be searching for symbols in this area. So I'm going to go through the rows and through the columns. The columns actually also need to... So the columns aren't just from -1 to +1, but also but we also need to add the length, of course, because the number is going to be longer. And we're just doing a quick check here that we're actually still inside of the two-dimensional array. We're going to check if it's a dot or an X. This is kind of my way of saying, well, we've already counted this digit. So if it's not a point, not a number that we've already counted, nor a number that we haven't already counted, then it must be one of those special characters. So this number that we're looking at right now should be counted. And then here in the should be counted, if we found a character next to it, then we're going to add the sum to it, and we're going to mark this number as already counted. Again, we don't really need to do this for our specific puzzle input that we got, but it might be necessary. I think it's cleaner like that. So then comes part 2 of the puzzle, where the gear ratio name actually comes in. Turns out that these stars are actually gears. And if you want to calculate the gear ratio of a specific gear, then you find if it has 2 surrounding numbers. If so, multiply them together. That's the gear ratio. If it doesn't have 2 numbers, like this 617, then it's not an actual gear. Again, these things can be diagonal, so this gear does actually have a ratio because there's 2 numbers surrounding it. And for this, I just mainly restructured the code. So whilst in A, we were first looking for numbers and then seeing if it had a character around it, for part 2, we're going to have to search for gears and check if it has a number surrounding it. And this has a bit of a caveat. So this is actually something I struggled with initially. So when there's a gear over here, then we're going to be searching for the surrounding characters. And of course, you're just going to start over here, then search there. And of course, we do find a number over here. But you need to account for the fact that the number might have started earlier on. So we're looping through all the inputs. We found a gear. Great. Now we need to find numbers near it. So we loop through the rows. We're checking if the row is reasonable, and we find a starting column, and we also calculate a searching column. which is just the current column of the gear minus 1. And then, while that starting column is actually a digit, we're going to be subtracting it until it isn't. Oh, this goes out of bounds even. Ooh, that's a bug. Damn, okay. Yeah, I should have been more careful, because in this case it's actually gonna, so it's gonna find this gear, it's gonna find this digit, and that while loop is gonna loop over here, still a digit, over here still a digit, subtract 1. Then we're actually at the string -1, which hopefully is not a digit. But if it happens to be, this would have been a problem. Yeah, I found a mistake in my own code. Interesting. This probably would have also looped around. Like, say if this were digits and this as well, then it would have just gone past that. I have absolutely no check for that. Wow. Yeah, I should have checked that. Anyways, so we find the first thing that isn't a digit, then go back to the thing that actually still is a digit. So we went from this -1 to back to the 4, and that's where we start reading the number. So now we have the entire number over here. And you do that, so you take all of these stars, if it has 2 numbers next to it, multiply it together. Again, in the input, you can assume that no stars have 3 inputs next to it, and all of the gears that only have 1 input should not be counted. Yeah, and again, we just add everything up to a big sum and print it out. Anyway, some CodeMaker 4. Code is on GitHub. I already solved puzzle 4, so a video of that should be up soon. Subscribe. I don't have an outro yet, but I do have a Discord server. And I have, every weekend, I live stream on twitch.tv/CodeMaker4. Links in the description. Bye.